Well, hello, DCO Nation. Welcome to Dead Calm Outdoors Radio. This is the show where the tide set the tone and the bite tells the story. We're diving into everything saltwater inshore kayak fishing, from lures and locations to weather, water, and winning tactics. If it helps you hook up on more fish, we're talking about it right here. So grab your paddle, check your drag, and here we go. Well, welcome DCO Nation to Dead Calm Outdoors, right here on the Outdoor Radio Network. My name is Chris, and before we jump into the show, I'd like to invite all you guys over to my Instagram, Facebook, Spotify, YouTube, all of the social medias. Let's get connected. Just search Dead Calm Outdoors. That way you guys don't miss a fishing video, fishing update, all the guests that I have on with my DCO Live on Thursday nights. But guys, we're definitely going to keep this intro pretty short because I have a gentleman on that is going to help us out with the cold weather game that has really been hitting us here. Gosh, really about the last month, especially here in the South and South Carolina. As I'm recording this right now, we are pretty much under a winter advisory. We're going to get a ton of rain. The upstate of South Carolina got snow and ice where my guest, John Menchyk from the YouTube channel Fishful Thinking Fishing, and he's also a Salt Strong regional coach from South Carolina to like northern Florida. So John, again, man, I appreciate you coming along. The OG of the show, you've been on, I don't know how many times, but again, brother, man, I appreciate you coming on.
Oh, yeah, man. I've lost count, I think, of how many times I've been on your show, and that is an actual good thing because I appreciate you bringing me on here all the time, man. It is so fun to come on, talk about fishing, especially talking about cold time or wintertime fishing. That is what I love to do. I love wintertime fishing. So I'm excited. Let's get rolling.
Yeah, cool. Yeah, I think the next time I have you on, I'm not even going to do an introduction because you don't even need one. So we'll just skip in and just start talking. So
We'll just jump right in. Hey, man, I'm not a very vocal person until we start talking about fishing. And then it's just like, bam, bam, bam. It just comes off the dome, But like outside of here, like if you see me in the store and stuff, I like talk, stuff like that. But man, when it comes to fishing, I can do it all day long, brother.
I know. Yeah. And when we get together, I have to watch the clock because I'll lose track and, we need to do commercial breaks in this. So, but anyway, okay, let's jump into this. I know I've said it in the past. Winter fishing is probably the toughest time for me. As a weekend warrior, a guy who gets out maybe, 2-3 times a week, at best. And I struggled during the winter time. So, let's kind of start with, can you explain fish behavior as the water temperatures start dropping down and, the dead of winter? What do these fish start to do?
Lazy. That's a good word for it. They start getting very lazy, very lethargic. They're not trying to chase down baits. That is like one of the last things they're trying to do in the wintertime. In the wintertime, it's all about survival. It's all about finding those deeper pockets of warm water. It's about finding that structure like oyster beds that's going to create the warmer water. It's all about survival. Now, as the bait fish go out, we don't have like the big baits, the big shrimps and stuff like that. We don't have those in the creeks right now, the big mullet. And so they're not feeding on big baits. And so if you were throwing big baits out right now, they could care less to eat it simply because it's a little more wear and tear on their digestive system, and it takes more energy out of them to digest the bigger baits when they could be expending that energy trying to find better waters. And so what smaller baits are in the creeks right now, the grass shrimp, stuff like that, that's what they really want to feed on. And so me personally, Ned rig all winter long, little small bait profiles, shrimp or slim swims, whatever you prefer. Mm-hmm. And that's how you catch wintertime fish is smaller baits and slowing that retrieval down. Do not make them chase it because they're not going to, especially speckled trout, redfish. They're not going to chase it down. They'll wait for it to come past them. Naturally, they're ambush predators, but in the wintertime, they have to really be particular about what food they're going to eat and when they will attack and eat.
Right, right. So that's the one thing that I always hear is, smaller profiles, especially this time of the year, the Ned rigs.
Mhm.
The small shrimps, the TRDs. I love Z-Man stuff, so a lot of my vocabulary is through the Z-Man profiles, the slim swims, but the real small,
D-Man makes
maybe
a lot
two
of
and a
great
half,
stuff.
maybe 3 inch, but that's maybe as big as I'll go is that 3 inch. But can you explain the term Ned rig? Because a lot of people hear it, but they may not exactly know what that means as far as your terminal tackle goes.
Um, that's a good question. I don't know if I can really explain that like in depth, but I can explain it in the terms of like how we're going to retrieve it and what the Ned rig is actually like used for. The
Hmm.
Ned rig is used for very slow fishing. It is very finesse, very slow. You're not supposed to really give it like big hops like you would, any kind of other, like if you did the power prawn or the prawn like we fish with at Salt Strong or the Slam Shady. Summertime, man, you can give that thing some hops and you can really work that thing. Well, the Ned rig is not designed that. The Ned rig is actually designed to stand straight up in the water. And so if you got like a shrimp profile on there and that Ned rig is straight down and that lure standing up, well, that tail is just wiggling in the wind. And that is basically the key for success is to slow it down and let the tide be your friend. Let it help that little Ned rig and let that little tail, because that's basically just waving the fish down, saying, "Hey, I'm right here. Come eat me." You know, and that's what they want. They want an easy meal. If the speckled trout and the redfish can get like an easy small meal in the wintertime, and that's exactly what they're going to go for. And that's like why I like throwing Ned rigs, because it's just again the way it sits on the bottom, it sits perpendicular straight up and down, and I do shrimp profile basically everything, and
Hmm.
that shrimp profile tail will just wiggle in that tide, and the fish really can't resist it. If it's in the strike zone and the fish are feeding, they'll hit it. They'll hit it. You just got to be patient.
Yeah. Yeah, definitely. And that is the thing that I know that I struggle with. I am such a power fisherman, and 8 to 9 months out of the year, I'm hopping and moving and being aggressive and
Mm-hmm.
working this bait, and then all of a sudden I've got to slam on the brakes during the winter time, flip the way that I think about fishing 180, and it's tough for me, man. I don't know if it's ADHD or what I got. But, to throw out that Ned rig and to, pause it on the bottom for 5, 8, 10 seconds,
Mm-hmm.
that's tough for me to do, but that's what you have to do, isn't it?
That's exactly what you have to do, and you have to just be patient. And it's just slowing things down. If you're a football fan, you'll understand this Aaron Rodgers reference. It's RELAX. It's relax. Just work that thing slow. It's that's just wintertime fishing. You got to relax. You have to be patient because the fish got to be patient. Like they're not just attacking everything they see. One thing in Salt Strong we really preach is the 90-10 zone. The 90-10 zone applies very much almost like a 95-5 zone in the wintertime because there is a ton of dead water around. Just about everywhere you look is dead water. And while that can be, I guess, that can like throw people off of wintertime fishing, when you find that bite though, and when you find where the fish are, you can have an absolute field day out there catching fish in one spot. And that's the beauty of wintertime fishing. It's all about slowing down and really figuring it out. And it helps you become a better angler all around.
Mhm.
It helps you slow down. In the summertime, it's fun. You can cover water, man. You can throw a lot. You can cast and cast and cast. But in the wintertime, it really slows your mind down, slows you down out there, really makes you, work for them. But when you find them, you figure out the pattern, it is on. It is on. You will get tight lines. You will find them. They will feed because fish still have to eat every single day. They will
Right.
feed. You have to find the feeding fish. And when you can do that in the wintertime and you find those feeding fish and they're stacked together in one location, wherever that may be, you can have a field day and you don't have to move spots again for the rest of the day.
Yeah. So let's talk about, you were talking about the 90-10 zone, eliminating that dead water, the area, that fish aren't going to be at. And so let's talk about the areas you're going to be targeting. So like you're pre-fishing, you're pulling up Google Maps, I'm assuming, looking at stuff like that. So what are you looking for during the winter time?
Just that difference, whether that be structure, whether that be the oyster beds, whether that be depth in the creek mouth, whether that be depth in the bends of a creek, anything like that, just something different, and something different that's going to actually give those fish a little bit warmer water and a little bit better place to stay away from the dolphins and everything that's also after them. And obviously, the deeper water in the bends of the creeks provide just a little bit warmer water, and that 1 or 2 temperature change in that water makes a huge difference. And then oyster beds, especially for redfish, on an oyster flat or something like that, if you have a later incoming tide and those oysters have just been baking in the sun all day long, and that water comes back over those oyster beds, well, that's where that warmer water is going to be. And the redfish will know that that's where that warmer water will be. So they will be there. That's just the name of the game in survival for them. It's just instinctual. So oyster flats, when you have the right tide now, this all revolves around tide and what Mother Nature is going to give you as well. It's hard to just really narrow it down when you don't have in Salt Strong. We really try to create a game plan. It's really like get 5, 6, 7, 8 spots that you want to fish, and have you a game plan. And so, but hitting those spots, man, those deep bends, creek mouths, creek mouths are good year round. Creek mouths for speckled trout are really good in the wintertime because it is that depth. That's just that a difference in depth right there. Most creek mouths have some sort of like depth around them
Hmm.
because naturally, it's just naturally like that. And the fish, redfish, flounder, speckled trout, they will all sit in those depths, and wait in ambush those little small baits that are coming out of those creeks. And then docks. If you find docks that have moving water and it has depth, that's where your sheep's head and your black drum, redfish, speckled trout, all of them will hang around a good dock. If you find that perfect location where you have like a dock that looks very good, has like, barnacles and stuff on it in the bend of a creek with depth, I mean, that is the recipe for success right now in wintertime fishing.
Yeah. Yeah, you're exactly right. You're exactly right. There's a couple of things that I want to touch base again, but we are coming up to the end of the first segment. So, guys, don't go anywhere. I'm talking how you can win the cold weather game with John Menchyk. He is from Fishful Thinking Fishing and a Salt Strong regional coach. And you're listening to Dead Calm Outdoors right here on the Outdoor Radio Network. Well, welcome back, DCO Nation, to Dead Calm Outdoors. I am talking with John Menchyk from Fishful Thinking Fishing, and we were talking cold weather fishing and how we can, get on these fish during these. I think, I don't know. In my opinion, I just don't like winter fishing. I don't know. It's me. I know it is. I see the guys sight fishing redfish. I've done it a few times. I can't figure it out. But that's why I have you guys on, because I'm very selfish and I want you guys to teach me how to get on these fish. So, but I tell you what, it was very interesting. A couple of weeks ago, I had Captain Stephen Fluke Jr. on,
Mm-hmm.
and he was talking about how tide dependent these redfish are.
That's
And
right.
you brought up the exact same thing. So I love how I can get different perspectives from people, and also how everybody's thinking is also on the same line. So I want to kind of dive in a little bit more about the later incoming tides. And can you kind of explain why that is better than maybe starting out in the morning with a high tide?
Well, overnight, obviously, it just gets colder. And as the nighttime falls down, and if we have cloud cover and that cold air just kind of stays down on top of that water, it can just create cold water. And the fish do not like the cold water. Speckled trout do not like the cold water. And redfish, I mean, they can survive a lot better than the speckled trout can. But for the most part, the redfish will always be looking for that warmer water. Well, when you got a low tide that really, when the sun starts coming out, say the sun starts coming out 8 o'clock, when you got a low tide at that point and you got an incoming tide and those oyster flats And those oyster beds, it takes that water a good little while to get up there. So they've been in the sun and they are getting warmer, especially if they're, when there's mud around, that mud will get warmer, those oysters will get warmer. And then that cooler water starts to kind of creep over those oyster beds. Well, those oyster beds, obviously, the heat from those oyster beds and that mud is mixing with that cold water, and that is just creating warmer water. Whether it be that 1 or 2 degree difference, that is all it takes in this wintertime fishing stuff, is just find that difference. And especially for these redfish, they are very tide dependent, like you said. And they will find that warmer water, which is over those oyster beds. They don't want to be in real deeper water right now. They prefer that shallower, warmer water. But you can catch them along deeper structure. But going back to what he said, as far as them being tide dependent, they will follow that tide into those oyster beds where that warmer water is, and that's just instinctual, and that's just what those redfish will do in the wintertime.
Yeah, yeah, and I have seen that definitely. Where low tide was maybe at that 9 o'clock ish, time frame,
Mm-hmm.
and bright bluebird skies. It's baking that mud, and 3-4 hours later, you push up onto a flat, and where it may have been 50 in the creek, it was 53, 54 now on that flat, just
That's
because of
right.
what you were saying, because that mud is heated up. It started to heat up that water a couple of degrees. Everybody knows a redfish, they're all cold blooded. So they'll
Mm-hmm.
move, for that 1, 2, 3 degree difference just to warm up their bodies again. So,
Right.
yeah, I love that. So yeah, absolutely. So I have been watching my tides, now. So the next time I can get out, I want to try to time it, the best way
Mm-hmm.
possible. So,
Do you think redfish are a lot like, I mean, think of us, think of us as humans, like our idea in the wintertime is to find somewhere warmer to be, like whether that be inside, or somewhere different than outside and where we're at. So redfish will think the same thing. It's like, where are we going to go be warmer at? And that's where we're going to go. And then obviously they have to feed. And so, instinctually, they will just put the 2 and 2 together. It's like, we can go here, get warmer water. And if there happen to be little shrimp around, we'll eat them as well.
right, right. Yeah, yeah, I love that. So if you think about yourself, where do you want to be, to be a little bit warmer? Do I want to stand out in the wind, or do I want to duck around the corner of my house,
Right.
where the sun is baking me and I'm out of the wind a little bit? Yeah, no, I love
That,
that.
that's
I
exact.
love
That's
that.
exactly right. That's exactly right.
Yeah. So okay. So a quick question that I had from somebody. They shot me a question the other day, and I thought, hey, this is great for John. So, do you have
Perfect.
to change your gear for wintertime fishing for this finesse fishing, or does gear not really matter?
I mean, first off, that is a fantastic question. Fantastic question. Gear, to me, absolutely matters. Now, I'm not like completely like downsizing rods. I'm still using a 7'6" medium fast action rod. But I am downsizing my line. In the wintertime, I'll go 8 to 10 pound braided line. While in the summertime, you can really get away with that 15 pound. That's about as heavy as I'll go on braid.
Mhm.
But in the wintertime, I will absolutely downsize because the last thing you want to do is spook a fish because when they don't really care about feeding that much and they're instinctually trying to survive, you want to trick them as easy as possible. And so lightening up the line and, not making your presence felt as much around them will definitely help you get more tight lines. So yes, I absolutely change up 8 to 10 pound braid. I'll go 10 pound leader, you know, mono. I'll always do mono, a little abrasion resistant better than fluoro is.
Mhm.
And 10 pound, I'll match 10 and 10. I'll go 8 and 10, and if I'm feeling crazy for whatever reason, I'll go 8 pound leader, just for fun, and go as light as
Yeah.
possible. But going as light as possible is the name of the game in wintertime. You want to have light line, light tackle, and don't spook the fish. That's the thing, is they know you're there, they will not bite. That's not wintertime fishing. That's not how they roll.
Yeah, yeah, and again, I'm right there with you. I'll do 15 to 12 to 15 pound fluoro on my leaders.
Hmm.
I don't change out my line because I use 10 pound braid year round.
Hmm.
So I won't go down to an 8 or anything like that.
Right.
I don't even go up during the summertime. 10 pound, I've landed you know 30-inch redfish on 10-pound braid. You may have to play it a little bit more, but
That's exactly
I've landed big fish with that braid. So yeah, so no, that's a great tip. I appreciate you breaking that down. Again, I know we kind of touched on lure presentation, but I want to kind of go back over that again, because I think that's really very important this time of the year. So does color matter at all with your lures this time of the year?
For me personally, I don't really throw a ton of different colors. I tend to just throw what I know. Now, I will try a lot of different things and the colors that I like. And obviously, I'm a Salt Strong coach. I know what works, and I know the Slam Shady color works. And so
Hmm.
when I buy those Z-Man Ned shrimps and I use the Ned rigs this time of year, it's the Slam Shady color that Z-Man has licensed from Salt Strong, and it is the Slam Shady color, and that color just works.
Hmm.
Wintertime, fall, spring, summer. I throw what I know. Especially right now when the wintertime fishing gets tough. The Slam Shady color, I mean, it just works good. Now, there's a ton of different colors that will work, and everybody has their own preference. Obviously, the fish aren't just going to key in on the Slam Shady. They'll bite different things, but me personally, that's what I like to do. I will keep it as simple as possible, and that is how I feel like I maximize my tight lines in the wintertime. And so, color can matter. Again, in the wintertime, you can still have clear waters or darker waters. That's not changing. Nothing's changing. We still get rain and stuff like that. And so, obviously, if we got darker waters, you want to go with like a little darker profile. That's the way I see it. That's how I've always had success. And then when you got these clear waters like we have in the wintertime, and you don't get this in the summertime, but when you have these like really nice waters, like bright colors like pink will work great. I don't throw pink personally, but like electric chicken is fantastic to use in the wintertime if you have a small profile bait. If you have a big one, you'll lessen your chance of getting tight lines. But when you have this clear water, those little bright colors like pink and all that, green work pretty good. But personally, that's not what I throw. I don't really like it. I like to throw the prawn, anything Slam Shady colored, and that's just, me personally, that's my preference.
Yeah. Yeah. And again, to reference back to Stephen Fluke Jr., he loves that the slim swim in,
Yep. Yep.
in that Slam Shady color. And,
Right.
that's a tongue twister, and, try to get that one out. But yeah, he loves that during the winter time. It is such a natural looking
Yep.
bait in the water. He loves it. And
Yep.
matter of fact, I've got a couple of those hanging up on the wall. I went out and I picked some up. And I still stick with the premise of, bright bluebird skies. I go with more of a natural color, a little bit
Mhm.
darker skies, just like you were saying, some darker
Right.
colors. Maybe a chartreuse tail on
Mhm.
something, I try to
I
work
think
that in.
chartreuse is good all year round. I think chartreuse is very good all year round. Any
Yeah.
kind of chartreuse tail or any kind of like just chartreuse coloring on a lure is always a good go-to.
Yeah, yeah. And I can't figure out the chartreuse color. What do fish think that is? I mean, is it because there's nothing that looks like it? They got it.
I
It's almost got
know
to be
I know in freshwater at least, bass think it's like a bluegill type-ish color, at least that's what I'm learning.
hmm.
So like it works very good bass fishing and stuff like that. But as far as saltwater fishing, I don't know if like pinfish have those stripes on it. There's somebody out there that can answer this question a lot better than I can. I'm just giving a guess right here. But like the pinfish have those, bright colors on them and stuff, and redfish key in on that stuff whenever they feed. And so me just throwing something out there, I think that might be it for saltwater fishing too, kind of related to bass fishing and freshwater.
Yeah, yeah. I think it's a reaction to it. I think it's a flash. It's a
Right.
little bit of a different color, especially in a dingy tinged water or something, and it's just that little bit of a change that, draws them over
Yep.
to it. So,
Yep.
but yeah, yeah, absolutely. So, we've got about, 1 minute left. So, tell people where they can follow you, because I tell you what, the videos you've been putting out have been great. You went out kayak fishing back in December. I remember you saying something about the no-see-ums were out and they were killing you,
Oh yeah.
but yeah, tell everybody where they can follow you and catch all of your great content.
All right. Well, we have a lot coming down the line here. Bass fishing videos, a bunch of different stuff, more saltwater fishing videos, cat fishing videos, catching cooks. Got a lot of that stuff coming up, and you can find all that on the YouTube channel, Fishful Thinking Fishing. And you can follow me on Instagram. You can follow me on Facebook at the same handle. And John Menchyk is my name on Facebook. And you can follow me there as well. I post a lot on my personal page. I do not mind that at all. So Menchyk is the last name. Find me there. Find me on Instagram. Find me on Facebook. And if you're not a Salt Strong insider and you want the cheat code to saltwater fishing, then I suggest you become a Salt Strong insider member, because I put out so much content for you guys. I will put out a weekend game plan every weekend to help you guys catch more fish and to help you guys succeed on the water without having to pay all these crazy guide prices. So if you haven't looked into Salt Strong yet, I advise you to. It's a great thing to do, especially if you want to learn saltwater fish. So you can find me there as well.
It's awesome, guys. Go over there, watch him. There was an episode I was watching just real quick where you guys were catching some redfish with a little Barbie rod and reel, which was killing me, man.
Oh yeah, yeah. I went out with a good buddy. I will give a good shout out to Captain Caleb Charters out of Charleston. That's my guy, man. And then we went fishing and we had those Barbie rods, the Superman rods, and all this other stuff. And a couple of those big fish got the best of us, but we landed a few. I think we got a slam on a little pink rod, so that's pretty cool.
Yeah. I love it, man. It's hilarious. Guys, give him a follow. Watch his content. He's absolutely fantastic. John, really do appreciate you. Thanks for coming on again. This always just flies by when you're on. I need to get an hour.
Yeah, 26 minutes in. It felt like we talked for 10.
Yeah, I know. So, hey, guys, don't go anywhere. The Kayak Power Hour continues with Straight Yak with Adam Milstead. Catch him. He does the freshwater side of kayak fishing. And, guys, remember, conservation starts with you. Release a fish for someone else to enjoy. And you've been listening to Dead Calm Outdoors right here on the Outdoor Radio Network.